energy. I feel it. I'm really excited to be here. It's my first time in a really beautiful city. I've been a bit blown away this morning, walking along the river and just seeing, it feels like summer, and I miss that living in the UK. So it was a great experience. And I had some delicious coffee, and it's nice to see some real energy in the show. Before I start is my little apology, because I'm very lazy. I have 2 old slideshows that I just glued together because I wasn't really sure who might be coming and what people might be interested in hearing. And they're really old slideshows from like 7-8 years ago that I kind of dusted off because I thought it might be more relevant and a little more fun for me to revisit some of these things. So a little bit of a room check. If you work in coffee, if you earn your living somehow from coffee, put up your hand. Okay. If you're a home barista, put up your hand. Ugh. Okay, so I should be honest. I used to be I'm a recovering home barista. It was a wonderful time when I was super passionate about coffee, and it was everything that I read and everything that I did, and I would spend all my time making espresso for myself. And I was really, really careful about the details then. And then I got a job in coffee, and very slowly, all of that disappeared. So now I try and make coffee as simply as I possibly can. If someone has a new toy that takes 10 seconds to make my espresso tastier, nah, I'm not interested. I buy exceptional coffee from exceptional people. I brew it as simply as I can, and if it's not going to shine there, it's me. There's something I can change, but it's not going to be a toy that will do it. So if you want to talk about, refinements and extraction, you should have seen Samo earlier. That's where the magic is in the science. I am a barista, and that means that most of my job is not making coffee, it's making people happy or trying really hard to. That's how I make my money. It's customer service. It is hospitality in the truest, most caring sense of those words. And when you really care about quality, you are navigating this fine line between giving the customer what you want to give them and then giving them what they need and trying to bring those 2 pieces together. And it can be difficult sometimes, but actually that's, for me, where a lot of the fun comes from. I think most customers, most people want to be shown something amazing. They want to be led to something beautiful. You just need to make it easy for them, and that's a fun challenge. My presentation title, my 2 presentations that I've glued together are all about barista competition. So if we don't have so many people working in coffee, why are you here? I'm always really interested to understand why people are interested or maybe inspired by these championships. I think it's a really powerful thing. Some of my slides conversation might be a bit too in the weeds if you're a home barista, but it might be an interesting insight into what competition really is and what the difficulties really are. And it might actually have some useful applications to other things that I don't understand. But mostly, I give you the 2 secret lessons from the whole presentation. Competition is all about project management. That's all it is. And it's all about being decisive, making decisions. Decisions are really important because if you don't make them, you can't make changes and you can't move forward and you can't hit what the biggest thing about competition is, which is a moment in time when you have to deliver. And you don't always deliver exactly what you want, but making decisions early helps you be better prepared to do that. Does anyone know who I am? Does anyone not know who I am? Am I some weird stranger that you've accidentally bumped into this later room? Everyone knows who I am. Wow, I'm famous in Ljubljana. Who knew? I'll give you a really short intro then. So I'm Dale Harris. I am the 2017 World Barista Champion, and I competed in barista competitions for around 10 years. I'm still technically kind of competing or kind of playing around the edges because it's something that has been, one, really impactful and important in my growth as a barista, but 2, it's become something that I really enjoy. It's not really a sport, but it can give you a lot of the joy that sport and games can give you. But I didn't start as a barista. I started as a fashion retail customer service assistant. I worked in a clothes shop. I got really excited about the brand that I worked in, and I found that I was this incredible salesperson for that brand. So customers would walk in, and I loved the product so much that I could convince them that they should love it too. And I thought that made me a great salesperson. I thought I was like, one of these insurance sales sharks that could convince people to sell their mom or do whatever. In reality, I wasn't that. The company that I worked for went bust, and I got another very similar job working for a different brand. And it was an exceptional brand, so it was Billabong. Beautiful surfwear, surfboards, everything. The company was amazing. I really love what they do. But I had a problem in that, even still to this day, I have never surfed in my life. And when you sell something that you don't have a personal connection with, it is a different challenge. And it's an interesting challenge. Some people can do this really well. I admire them. But I learned that I'm not a great salesperson. I'm just someone who really likes to talk about things that he enjoys. I like that connection. I like communicating with people. That's where I find joy. And so I had a crisis when I was in my early 20s doing a job that I hated, selling things that I didn't care about to people that I didn't understand. And so I decided that I was young enough that I could make a change, and that whatever I did would be something that I loved and something that I wanted to be spending every moment of my day in. And so I was a home barista. I had found this weird obsession around the edges. I had a really cheap and awful home espresso machine that cost less than 100 euros. It had a, 57 point nothing portafilter device thing that would break every time you touched it. It had a milk system that if you removed 7 parts, you could kind of steam milk. And you had to switch between making espresso and milk and do all these things. I was making coffee with pre-grind Lavazza vac packs from the supermarket. But I was finding these incredible blogs and stories and obsessive people on the other side of the Atlantic, on the other side of the world in Australia, who were talking about this whole different world of coffee. And I just fell in love with this world of obsession. And I was spending more and more time outside of my day job thinking about coffee, tasting coffee, wanting to experience these things that other people were experiencing. So when I left that retail career behind, I took an entry-level position at a chain because that was all that was really available in the UK at that time. But I had a vision. I was going to set up, a beautiful cafe with folk music. It was going to be super high quality because I thought the quality mattered. That was something that was important to me, so it must be important to everyone. But I knew nothing about it, so I thought, let's take an entry-level job. I wanted to work in a dreamy, beautiful, tattooed specialty espresso store, but I didn't live in Portland, and I didn't even live in London. And at that time in London, there were maybe 2 good cafes. So even that was difficult for me. So I got a job at a chain, not a green one, but a different one. And I wiped tables for a few weeks, and that was really hard work when I'd been doing something that was a little more relaxed. After maybe 2 weeks, they let me learn everything that they would teach me about espresso, which took about 2 weeks. And then they threw me on the floor making very traditional Italian-style espresso, milk drinks for English grannies who did not want hot foam milk. It was a different world. You prefer this one? Okay. Hello? Stick with the classics. Ah. Okay, so hello? There we go. So that was back in 2007. I was working at this chain. I had a dream of opening a business that I have never yet opened. Maybe I'm on the path towards that now. But there was inspiration around, because around that time, a weird English guy had just won the World Barista Championship. And I knew nothing about what this competition was, but this trade magazine came along with my paper cup samples and my other things, and I was like, if an English guy can do this, maybe there's something in it. And James became this huge inspiration to me, not so much because of competition, though that was super inspiring to see that that kind of thing was possible, but more because of the business that he opened with Square Mile around that time and how open he and the community in London were to sharing ideas about coffee. It was kind of this fertile ground where lots of very passionate baristas from all around the world had decided that London was ripe, was an opportunity. There was a real cultural exchange from parts of Scandinavia, parts of Australia, parts of the US, with baristas from all those places hanging around in London, seeing this ripe moment and building new businesses. And now if you go around London, it's this amazing specialty coffee capital, but some of the best stores are the ones that were established around that time. Dose, Caffeine. Competition was a major part of bringing those people together. There were very few trade shows, and the trade shows that were there were very commercially focused. They were designed for big business, and they were designed to sell biscuits and syrups and maybe coffee machines, but the coffee was very generic for most of the brands. But James and a few other key players were building this idea of specialty coffee that was very UK focused, bringing these incredible flavors and these incredible opportunities, and competition was a real nexus for those people to come together. I'm not a competitive person. This will come as a surprise later. I still don't believe I'm a competitive person, but I am very driven, and competition provides a roadmap for self-improvement. It might not be the right roadmap. The destination might not always be the right one or in line with all of your goals, but it gives you some real clarity on, okay, this is what people are looking at. If you do this better, you will succeed. So that's really good for someone who's a little obsessive and kind of binary in how they work around problems. If we chat a little about what the World Barista Championship is and what it's for, it's a weird combination of food service, gymnastics, and coffee technical skill, and TED Talks, all thrown together in a little mix. Someone presents a series of drinks to 4 sensory judges who taste them, and a large part of the scoring is based on promises delivered. So do they make a promise about the drinks in terms of flavor, in terms of experience, that the judges then receive? And there is something true about this with the relationship that a barista has with their customers every day. It's not exactly the same. Often there's a lot of miscommunication, both in competition and in the real world, but there is a real skill in being able to read customers and being able to direct customers. So that communication is really important, and the presentation skills are really important. And as the competition has grown over the last 20 years, it has changed a lot. I think some people have some evidence of that in the room. It's grown a lot, the community has changed a lot, the ingredients we use have changed a lot, and it has evolved as the community has evolved. Why did I start to compete in coffee? It was really my only way of accessing this weird network of professional baristas and specialty coffee. At that time, in this small village. No problem. Hello, is this one even better? Total clarity? I wanted to be a part of this movement that I was reading about that I couldn't access working in this traditional Italian chain. And it gave me an opportunity to meet people and learn new things, taste new coffees, and really fast track my growth as an individual. It has benefits and it has drawbacks, and those have changed over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think right now there are many other routes to success as a barista, as a coffee professional, if that's where you want to drive yourself. There are lots of more efficient ways to learn. There are lots of cheaper ways to connect with other people. But nothing quite beats the feeling of building your concepts and your ideas around something you love and sharing them without any interruption. Because for 15 minutes, nobody asks questions. You can serve coffee on your terms, and maybe that works and maybe that doesn't, but that's a really powerful opportunity to help you shape your ideas and drive them forward. Now, I said I have a couple presentations banged together. We'll do a little poll in the room, and I might skip some slides depending on that. So one is I can talk to you about my history of failure over 10 years when I didn't quite win my national competition, and how painful and traumatic it was, and the useful life lessons that taught me. Or we can talk more about what happened in the final year and how I built my presentation for the Worlds and some of the lessons I learned from that. So if we just get a little bit of a preference for the first, the long history of failure. Cool. About half of you. And then a beautiful story of triumphing against all odds. Okay, about half of you. Okay. We'll do a little bit of each. It'll be very competition focused, but what I'll do is I'll try and slam all these ideas together in the next 20, 25 minutes, and hopefully there's some time for specific questions from any of you about anything. So, okay. Oh, we're going backwards. All right, this is me. I was very young. This is 2009, my first year of competing. You're fine. Just for the stream, so me talking louder is not helpful? Okay, so is this good? Yeah. This works? All right. So my first year competing was in 2009. I knew next to nothing about coffee. I'd learned these traditional standards from my chain, and I had read a lot of blogs where they were talking about farms and these beautiful flavors that I really couldn't taste in coffee. I just didn't have access to the great coffee that would allow me that experience, except for these occasional cuppings that I would attend at beautiful private events. I didn't really understand what I was doing making coffee behind a machine, but I did know that I could limit things, limit the problems that I was experiencing to my grinder and this very difficult to use Spaziale espresso machine. And I could build a story within 15 minutes because I had a history of training people in my fashion retail business. So I was quite good at building storytelling and training sessions and things like that. And I was confident is the wrong word. I had enough nervous energy and the ability to funnel that nervous energy into irrational excitement behind a stage. And anyone who's worked behind any kind of bar will know there's a lot of confidence you get from having this, fixed wooden counter in the way between you and these strangers. Behind an espresso machine, behind a bar, I can almost be anyone or feel anything. You're putting on a show, you're putting on an act, and that's really powerful and lets you be sometimes the very best version of yourself, and sometimes not so much. In 2009, it was my first competition. It was very fast, so maybe 4 or 5 weeks after paying some money and signing up to this thing, I was competing on a stage in this small venue, even more like the reception of a hotel with 10 other people in the same boat. Now, what I will say is I really benefited from, at the beginning of that process, the people organizing the national competition that year also organized some workshops, events where baristas could drop in and hear a couple talks from previous competitors, taste some coffee, and it became this really welcoming experience. And I got to meet the other people I'd be competing against, and they were all slightly awkward young men and women who loved a thing and didn't know what to do with that outlet. And because I was in a rural, smaller part of the country, we were also all quite disconnected from the cool things that were happening in the big cities. And so we were all in the same boat together, that we really believed in something, that we were really passionate and wanted to learn about something. And we all saw this competition, this game, as maybe a route to learning more and growing. And so we really connected, and we would chat over, Facebook at that time, by getting ready for the competition, the coffee we were trying, the problems we were hitting along the way. I served really bad coffee on that stage. It was kind of competently brewed, but it was a Robusta blend that tasted, of dark roast, nothing else. But I presented well, I made a drink that was kind of creative, and 4 strange-looking professional coffee people in little suits and waistcoats and aprons smiled as I served the coffee, and then afterwards were really generous with feedback. And with, yeah, you were kind of, there were these areas where maybe you should learn a little more, or you could watch this or think about these kind of challenges. But your energy was really positive, and we really liked your passion and excitement for the competition. And it's really easy to kind of treat that kind of feedback as throwaway or not very important. But I would say that for most people, their first competition is the most impactful one in their life. Particularly that debrief, where somebody takes someone who's gone through a really emotional experience, lots of hard work thrown together at the last minute, maybe not quite delivered what you wanted to deliver. If the judge or whoever is giving you a debrief is supportive and provides a little bit of optimism and a little bit of direction on what you could have done differently or how you could progress through this environment, that can leave you in such a positive place. So I had a good first competition experience. And for anybody who is excited about being more connected with the coffee community but doesn't feel that they want to compete, I would say two things. One, it's worth trying once. Even if it doesn't match your natural preferences, it's really interesting to go through the experience. You learn an incredible amount, and you might be surprised at how much you enjoy it. It's still really hard work, and all the highs come with some real lows, but the other option is if you are excited by tasting exceptional coffee, you want to know more, you want to be connected with that community, but you don't want to stand on a stage, which is really understandable. Judging is really valuable, is incredibly valuable for the community and for those competitors, and also for yourself, because some of the coffee served will be awful. A lot of the coffee will be awful, and none of it will be as good as it should be or could be in the training room or in the lab. But there is exceptional coffee being served in every country by these really passionate individuals. You also have this opportunity to shape the direction of lots of careers at a really early stage. I came second in that little regional competition, mostly because of presentation skills and because I didn't make as many mistakes as some of the other baristas. But, you know, in my head, it was because, you know, I've got natural talent. This is something I could do. I could be like this James Hoffman guy if I really tried. And I had some further inspiration that year, this guy, Guillem Davis, it was also his first year competing in competition. And somehow he won the UK national and the entire world competition. So it also set some false expectations for me, because if he could do it, maybe I could do it. And what I didn't know at the time was Guillem had been making coffee for, I think, 60 years at that time, something like that. I met him soon after the UK nationals. I was working a trade show with a lever machine, and he came and asked me some questions in a really gentle kind of, oh yeah, this machine looks pretty, I'd like to know more about it. So I thought he knew less about coffee than I did at that time. I said, oh, can I come behind the bar and make some coffee? And he came behind the bar. And Guillem is the most down-to-earth person you'll ever meet. He's quiet, he's super humble. But when he's touching a coffee machine, he has such, from the bar world, you would say flair. He has such natural connection with the coffee machine. Every movement he makes with his hands on a good day is super polished, super tidy. He just knows where things should be. That guy probably didn't have natural talent, but now is truly connected to the coffee machine and to the coffee. And so Guillem was another great ambassador for coffee in the UK for the community and for the baristas, because he opened up his coffee cart at that time, and then later his bar, to any barista who wants to come and learn to make coffee with him. He would give little tips, he would ask little questions, he would share some of his experience from around the world. So it was again part of that really fertile ground for young baristas to grow up and be excited in a trusting and supportive environment. I competed for another couple years through competition. I don't know why I have these photos in here. At the time, I was like, that's a great photo. And we make bad decisions when we're younger about how we look. I competed for another 4 years in the national competition. So from 2009 to 2013, I progressed in the competition. And I progressed in my career and in the industry. I went from working in a chain to working for a machine company as a local trainer, support staff, growing within that company where nobody else really cared about coffee, but they really saw the value and the potential of this growing demand for specialty, for quality, for whatever this kind of progressive movement for coffee was. So they gave me lots of support and lots of opportunities to grow. That sent me to more trade shows, to more competitions, and then through them, through the competitions, I met Steve Layton from Has Been, who was, like James, one of the early pioneers in the UK market, had set up a small roastery that was really focused on quality, and he loved home baristas and people making coffee at home. He really wanted to sell one individual bag at a time to anybody who wanted to make great coffee at home. But he had a problem that he also wants to buy the best coffee in the world. And to do those two things, you don't need to be selling small little retail bags one at a time. You need enough, certainly at that time, you needed enough buying volume to be buying containers of coffee and building direct relationships with producers so that you could buy some of their fancy coffee and some of their core coffee together and make it financially viable for all parties. And so he had an opportunity for somebody that didn't like home baristas, no offense, but didn't enjoy that kind of single transactional moment, but instead wanted to be involved in cafes and businesses and spending time with baristas who were making coffee after coffee after coffee. So I took a role with Steve looking after or building his wholesale business, and we worked together for 12 years at Has Been, growing that side of the business. And all of my role was spending time in cafes, training, interacting, tasting coffee together. And this gave me access to exceptional coffee, exceptional skills, exceptional stories. And this really fast-tracked my development and my knowledge. However, at the same time I was competing, and Steve was really excited about competition, I was really excited about competition, I was putting more and more effort and energy into kind of perfecting the recipe of how to win this competition. Each year, you would compete and you would get your score sheets back and you would see, okay, where you missed the mark in the judges' expectations from what they thought you should be doing and delivering, or what you promised to deliver to what they felt you actually delivered. And whilst I knew that I was growing as a barista, I was getting better and better and stronger and more capable and more knowledgeable, my results were moving backwards. So I went from 12th in the UK, which was, punching above my weight. The next year I came second in the UK, again, mostly tied to passion and presentation skills. The next year with much better coffee, a league ahead in terms of coffee, a league ahead in terms of skills. I placed third. I was like, it kind of happens. Maybe the other guys were better, whatever. I shook it off a bit. The next year I did it again and I came fourth. And then the next year I came fifth. And whilst this is not true, it felt to me like I am getting better and better, and this competition is not getting harder. The judges are getting worse. This was my lesson that I was getting from the experience. I got really caught up in the idea that I was trying to win this competition, that I was trying to win this game, and it overtook a lot of other really important things in my psychology and in my way I was thinking about it. And it became really damaging for me for a little while, because I thought I was growing, but then this kind of external party was telling me that I was falling behind. And there were other stories at play. I was in a community and in a time where that community was really exploding with growth and opportunity and passionate people that were driving things in new directions. I'd say to a degree, maybe the coffee in the UK right now is better than it was then, but the energy and the passion and the excitement of being a barista and driving things forward and creating change was at its highest at that time, from, let's say, 2010 to 2015 in the UK. So we had exceptional baristas that I was competing and often missing the mark against. John Gordon, who would win the championships in the UK, I think 3 times, and then later go on to be a champion in New Zealand. We had Maxwell Kelowna Dashwood, who started as one of my clients, who was like super sniffy about these competition idiots who know nothing about really making quality coffee for people. And then he saw an opportunity, and in 2 years, he went from, let's say, below me in terms of competition skill to, eclipsing me in every possible way. And I hated him for it. I would say I hated him for it even more because he's a nice guy. And we agreed about 98% of things and really disagreed about 2% of things that aren't very important. So it was really frustrating for me, and I kind of turned away particularly from competition and from the judges in 2012. I placed fifth. I was convinced that my espresso was by far the best coffee that anyone in the competition had served or whatever. I definitely didn't make any mistakes, whatever. The next year, I didn't compete. And instead, I don't know what I threw my energy into other things, serious business things, career things. I was going to drive my own progress forward in other ways. And this is a really good, healthy thing, right? You should not assign your value, your personal value, to four strangers for any reason. And I kind of tell my kids, never put yourself in this position that other people decide how good you are. But I did put myself in that place for a long time. The next year, I was like, competition's for idiots. It's a game. There's not bribes involved, but there's all these commercial interests. And actually, I know more about coffee than half of the judges. Lots of these kind of negative emotions around it. But I still went to the competition. I still watched the regional because some of my really good friends that I made in that first competition were competing again. And I watched them preparing their cards, going through all this kind of emotional labor, standing up on stage and speaking their truth about coffee. And I felt like, I don't know, it took a little while for these emotions for me to really understand it. I watched, these three beautiful people who I competed against and next to. So this is John, who won in 2013 in the UK, Estelle, both of whom were in that same regional that I competed in my first year, and I have been friends with them for 15 years now. We've gone on different journeys in coffee, but we still have so much shared ups and downs through that experience. And Maxwell, who I worked with for a few years, I watched all of them do things incredible on that stage, and I just had this, two emotions: jealousy. They were doing it. They were going through the emotional pain. Not all of them would win that competition that year, but they could deal with that frustration and get through the work and do what they wanted to do and feel joy from it. And I just realized that I had cut off my nose to spite my face, we say in English, because of some of the pain and because of the desire to win, overcoming all the other benefits that I got from competition of spending time with incredible people that share your passion, tasting coffees, and going on a journey with a small team to build your idea, your conception of what a coffee can be, and then finally delivering that on the stage, whether it works or whether it doesn't. It's an incredible sensation. It's an incredible feeling. The only thing that I can equate it to in my career is when you're really working in a startup and there's 2 or 3 of you and you might not succeed, but you all believe that it's worth the effort. The emotions are incredible. So I realized that I'd been an idiot and that I was hurting myself and shutting myself off from so much opportunity to grow. And so from the point that John went to Melbourne to compete in the WBC, I was watching it at home at 4 a.m. on my computer, watching every competitor, chatting on the live stream, and I connected with one of the producers that we were working with at the time, who was also watching this competition because he was obsessed about quality and he was obsessed about the future of what coffee could be. And so we were chatting on this chat and we asked some questions and we're like, oh, what could we do if we started now? And this kind of switch flicked in my head about what competition could be for me. If there was no way that I would win the competition, how could I use it just to power my future growth, my ideas about coffee? How could I do it better? And so for the next 3 years, I did just that. I competed with more energy and more passion than I had for a long time, probably since that first year. I competed with coffees that would not exist in the world if I hadn't been involved with them, if I hadn't had that competition and that kind of weird finish line dream vision of maybe winning to empower that vision. And each year I got better as a barista, as a coffee professional in every way. So in 2014, with an incredible coffee, a truly incredible coffee that we had treated like a houseplant, maybe one very small area of a farm. We did an experiment where we fed different nutrients to that tree compared to like the test plot next to it. We produced 2 incredible coffees, and then I served one, and the judges were kind of blown away, and I came second. And the next year I went again and I did some other things, this time less to do with coffee and more to do with service and hospitality and new ideas, getting judges to turn around, close their eyes, whatever. It felt new to me. And I came second. But the sensation of coming second had stopped being about losing and had more been about winning on my own terms. In 2016, I had tables that were like origami that folded up to create different service experiences that paired with the different drinks I was making. It was maybe not expensive, but certainly technically, and the investment in time and energy in creating this was absurd. But for me, it gave me real ideas on different things we could do in cafes, an opportunity to present some of those ideas, and I came second. And it was kind of like, this is my thing. This is I'm almost really good at this. And the true story is I genuinely believe most of these competitions, who wins, there's a little bit of luck and a little bit of magic, but really it's down to you can be good enough to win. You can have put in the energy and the investment and the time and the magic. It doesn't guarantee anything. Someone else may be better than you in that moment or connect better with the judges, and sometimes that's for you. But you can learn the process of doing everything in your power to control the positivity of that result. In 2017, I did win. It was probably the end of my journey, whatever would have happened with competition. I felt that I had begun to outgrow the need for using competition to learn and develop, but I still enjoyed it. So I had one last kind of tilt at doing it. I kind of broke some rules that I'd set on myself about what I would do and what I wouldn't do. And I just found a combination that seemed to resonate with the UK judges. I don't think that competition was my best competition by any chance, but it was the one that gave me this great opportunity to compete at the Worlds. And I've gone way over time, and I started late, and I have not spoken about building a perfect routine. So I'm going to say in 3 minutes, first of all, how I prepared my winning routine. I didn't do it. We did it. I had a team of people that I really trusted, that I had built up over years of working with them, and they were really passionate about competition, and they were really passionate about helping me do what I wanted to do on the world stage rather than what the world said would win. So this is Jen, my partner, Pete, who was a former Irish competitor and a coach and lots of other skills. I would say if you have the ability to partner with somebody who has competed before or who has judged, it is really helpful, because it is impossible to trust yourself when you are really tied to an idea. You need somebody who understands the rules enough that can challenge you when you are trying to push the rules too far or trying to push the boundaries, but also will support you when that boundary pushing is really important and will help you juggle those two conflicting things. And I had Steve, who still today I think is one of the best roasters and tasters in the world, and the incredible network of producers that he had worked with. So I had incredible coffee from a producer that even today I find super inspiring. So it's how we prepared a winning routine. I said at the beginning that a lot of this is about decisiveness. We had 8 weeks to build a competition routine, and I threw away everything I'd done at the Nationals because I had one chance to stand on stage at the Worlds. We gave up on any idea of trying to win and instead focused on building a routine that was personal, that was about my ideas about coffee, that was about clear communication, and that was possible within the strict limitations of the score sheet and the rules. Really thought hard about what I wanted to achieve, wrote those goals down, learn new things and grow. Use techniques that I have been scared to try before, that I wasn't experienced at doing, focus all my energy on delivering those on the stage, serve a coffee that I find exciting and inspiring, not that I thought would score highly. And whilst I could talk through how we jam-packed all these incredible decisions in 8 weeks, we can do that after this time, or I can share the slideshow with anyone who reaches out to me on Instagram. The important thing to me was doing something that nobody else would do. That in that moment on stage, I would serve something that only me as an individual would share. Something personal and something that I believed in. And I believe that if you are communicating something that is true to you, the judges hear that message more clearly than anything else you could say, any line you could give, any perfect scoring coffee. If you build something around your passion, if it doesn't succeed, at least you get to feel true and honest to yourself. And if it does succeed, you can really stand behind that success and take it forward in new ways. There are so many things I'd love to say about competition. It is imperfect. It comes with lots of challenges and probably way too much pressure for anyone to really kind of absorb. If you can let that go, it can be one of the greatest drivers of personal growth. And if you have any part in you that wonders whether you could succeed on that stage, you should compete at least once. Okay, I think that's good for now, but I can answer any questions anyone wants about almost anything personal to me. Go. Thank you. Okay, go.
I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, you mentioned when you compete, you pick a coffee.
Yeah.
So each barista needs to basically during the year, I guess, find someone or somewhere where they source from. So that's also part of the result, not just how you brew it, but also what you choose to bring. And I guess that's how the specialty coffee evolved, because people started, yeah.
Yeah, so choosing a coffee, I've gone through it a few different ways in the past, 3 different competitions. There's no right way. I'd say when you're building a competition performance, you're probably going from one of 3 different directions. You might have an idea, so you find a coffee that supports that idea. You might have a specific drink or brewing style that you want to experiment with, and then you choose either a coffee that supports that extraction or has flavors that pair with that drink. They're both ways you can build performances. I've certainly done both. Camilo from Santuario was here talking this morning, and I built a whole routine around 2 of his coffees a fair few years ago, and I had not tasted the coffees until 2 weeks before the performance because they were on a shipping container that got delayed, whatever. But I still placed, 3rd that year, and it was phenomenal coffee. If you have the right people and enough understanding, you can do that. The coffee is really impactful to your final scores and position, the quality of flavors. But there are lots of ways of impacting flavor, particularly with barista competitions and espresso-focused drinks. Your brewing choices, your roasting choices, all of those impact what flavors will come out. And your personal preferences and the challenges of the judges. I chose a coffee for the Worlds in 1 week. I had samples prepared for me. I'd set some limitations to Steve that were around my personal beliefs, in that I didn't want us to be buying a coffee just for this competition, because we had a business that prided ourselves on having phenomenal coffees. And I didn't want to be waiting for something to arrive, some kind of dream perfect thing. I said success in competition is often about decisiveness. The best coffee is the one that you've had the most time to perfect, with the roast, with the brewing recipe, with whatever. And the same with the presentation. So I asked Steve to prepare 8 coffees for me to cup. Steve already had decided which coffee I should be using, and I was also kind of had this personal angst. It was like, no, I have to intentionally make this personal decision that's going to impact my stage performance, my idea of success. I need to make that decision completely independently. So I asked him to prepare the samples. We cupped 8 coffees blind. I did a gut choice. a gut read on each of them, scoring them out of 10, my preference, and my gut feeling on whether they would shine well as espresso based on their flavor profile, which for me at that time was actually not too acidic, not too anything, because espresso exaggerates everything. So a little safe on the cupping table, but with some qualities that shine through, some interesting flavor characteristics. I took the top 4 of those coffees and immediately ground coffee on an EK, brewed really bad versions of those cupping samples as espresso, and tasted them and wrote the flavors and followed my gut in the one that I felt was a truly pure, good version of espresso that I could stand behind. And I have my personal preferences. I love single origin espresso. I almost don't see a purpose for blends. I do, but it's for commercial purpose and all these other reasons. No coffee is perfect. There's no such thing for anyone. But truly showing the quality of these individual coffees is a really exciting experience for me. So I found one that I thought was balanced, had interesting characters. In fact, I found 3 coffees. The top 3 that I chose from that cupping table that beat some amazing Ethiopian coffee, natural processed Kenyan, some incredible geishas, but they were all coffees from El Salvador. They were all from one exceptional farm that, I'd been working with for 10, 15 years, serving espresso from that. It really matched my preferences and my ideas of quality, but it had some extra interesting stories around it that had been farmed in a different way and these extra things. If it doesn't shine without any of the other information, if it doesn't taste good enough when you know nothing, it's not good enough. But if it tastes incredible, the flavors are clear, there's something you can work with. And if you can also build a story from the farm, about the farm, that's incredible. If you can't, you can win the WBC, I believe this, with any coffee. I think one of the big challenges is everyone tries to win, so they try and bring coffees that they think will win. The year that I won, 5 of the 6 finalists were using geisha coffee, which I love, but they were using very similar coffees. And all of them had very similar flavor descriptions, though they were doing lots of different interesting things in other ways. But they all used the flavor descriptor jasmine. So for those judges on the final day, only one of those coffees was, 10 out of 10, that's what jasmine is. All the others were maybe 8 out of 10 compared to this other one they tasted. I was using a completely different flavor profile. It's much more traditional. It was, milk chocolate, red plums, more tempera fruit than tropical fruit. So it really stood out as a contrast, but it was really an excellent version of those flavors. And, in another talk, I would talk about sports psychology and going for the gap. You want to do something that no one else is doing because then you're being almost scored on a different criteria, and that really helped me stand out. And that would have either placed me, genuinely when I was preparing my competition, I thought I would either come 60th or 14th, and I did better than 14th. It was good enough.
Thank you. Do you do one espresso, one milky, one V60, or you can choose which one you do?
So you do, for this competition, and there are a range of different competitions now, but for the Barista Championship, you serve 3 drinks. You serve an espresso, a milk-based drink, and a signature beverage that can use other ingredients but no alcohol. And you can choose to use, technically you can do a different coffee in each one if you're more technically savvy than I am at mixing hoppers around. I believe, certainly for me, I think there's a really interesting story you can tell about coffee and help a judge or a group of judges really understand your coffee better by presenting one coffee through those different mediums and show different sides of it. That's one way of going. And each of them have different challenges. You have to then decide which order you want to serve them, which is the best storytelling to reveal certain sides of the coffee and a certain narrative about the coffee. So for me, I chose to serve the milk drink first. It's an easy entry point. It hides some flavors, maybe gives the judges a soft, palate entry point. I then served the espresso, and that was Mostly, the highest scoring element of your performance will be the physical elements of the espresso you serve. So having a little more time by serving the milk drink first, you can better kind of position the judges, give them a better idea of what the coffee might be before they experience the espresso. But it also gives them a reference for the signature beverage, where you're going to modify that espresso with other ingredients. And maybe it can be difficult for them to make the connection or really understand how you've changed the coffee if they haven't tasted it before. So that was my plan for that course of drinks. Yeah.
I have a question on serving. Just because you are being judged on taking something directly from the espresso machine to, the judges right there, right? You get to give them the perfect version of espresso. I recently had a problem where my cafe will have to go from that corner all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
And I brought it out to some customers, and they're like, "Oh, you see that? That's not good. There's no crema on that anymore."
Yeah.
Because I stopped at 2 other tables, and he's like, "Oh, can you make me another one?" Like being judged harshly on something that almost doesn't matter. Like, have you ever had anything that's been like, "But did you try it yet?" or anything?
I mean, certainly commercially, yeah, every day. Customers are really difficult. Judges are in some ways more accepting. They've signed up. The whole thing about competition is they're sat down and they're ready for a show, and they're going to let you do your thing in your way. But at the same time, there are rules in the competition that have changed over time, that have been, based in tradition or bad science or just not powerful. Crema is a perfect example. We used to have to tell the judges what the color of the crema would be. I'm like, okay. Hey, that is effectively defining the roast or the espresso machine. It means nothing. Crema is a freshness attribute. I would say, I understand that situation. Not every cafe needs to have every fight. That kind of there's an opportunity there to educate, which is the worst thing you can ever do to a customer, or knowingly do. You don't want to educate, but you want to try and find a way to, okay, they're there and I'm here. If someone's unhappy, you want to make them happy, right? And I've 1,000 million times in my career, I've made a bad decision where I've chosen, I'm going to do something bad to the coffee to make this customer happy, because their happiness is important to my business, or it's this exam. Sometimes it's the wrong thing to do. You can lecture someone about why they're wrong, or you can go, okay, it's fine. I'm going to make you another espresso and try and bridge the gap somehow. This is a hard situation if they're a long way away. I'd probably say, do you want to come to the bar with me and I'll serve you something for free from, this exceptional thing. There is so much dogma around the world about coffee, because they're putting it in their bodies. They are passionate about their thing, and if they find a way that they like to drink it, it's hard to win a fight if somebody's really strongly connected to this thing that they've learned at some point. The best only way to fix this is to do it, before they walk in the door. Build the signposting in your store, build the ordering system that ideally reduces the obstacle as much as you can, but also brings the customer closer to your understanding of coffee by being gentle. So there might be signs like, no crema on our espressos, we're crazy, ask us about it. It's fine. Yeah, I'm not sure there's something helpful in there, and I could explain it better. Anyone else?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a bit personal, but how do you feel about winning a title, being the best of the best in our field, going to your coffee shop and the regular customer doesn't give a shit about who you are and how much you achieved, and then you need to navigate your daily life with the fact that being the best is not the matter of those 4 judges and tech judge and head judge, but it's the matter of everyday, Maggie coming for hot cup of coffee. And how do you navigate yourself through that? Like, this is our world, our small world, and this is the real world.
I think I had a lot of really exciting experiences immediately after winning the competition, and some very rapid ones that dropped me straight down to earth. I'd say, it's a bubble. It's a game. It's a thing that exists on a different plane. It's really impactful within the industry and can be, but also, there's a lot of trade shows I can walk around and no one knows who I am anymore. I'm not anyone. I won a game once in making coffee. But I take a huge amount of pride and value and confidence in myself that, there were better competition baristas in my finals. There are people that I respect so much who, a little bit of luck one way or another, or, a good decision or bad decision one of us made impacted that result. But I was able to stand on a stage that I really valued and do a thing that I really valued to a high level in that moment when it mattered. I was the best at making these weird 3 drinks and talking about them in those 15 minutes on that day. I take huge pride in that. But it's not real. I know a lot about coffee from my many years of working in it, but also in competition, my experiences. But I don't need to share that with everyone. I know it in my heart, and I can probably make a better coffee than many people behind many bars. But I also know there are a lot more skilled baristas who will never compete, who are working in bars every day, and there are people with much better human engagement and relationship management and workflow stuff. So I really respect anyone who is willing to give 8-10 hours of their day every day to make people happy and try and bridge that gap between quality and expectations. Did I answer that? Cool. I think we're done. I'm so sorry.